What's good, everybody? So there is a conclusion to the whole situation as it stands, but before we go and get into that, a few different things. In this video, we will be going over everything from macros, camping in general. So if you'll please be so kind and give me your ear for the duration of the video, and we'll both have a clearer picture as to what is actually going on here. Also, with Gamble's permission, we will be going over and comparing more than anything else. We will be comparing the tickets that I have received and the answers that I have received to the answers that he has received from an official DE staff member, where he talked to them about myself. I just want to say I'm simply sharing my experiences and my story, because my community deserves to know and understand, as I always have been transparent with everything from my overall health conditions, why I do content creation, and my macros usage, which I started using macros at the creation of this account that's currently in question right now, which was back on February 4th, 2020. It was a good bit after I had deleted my first account in protest to unfair trade suspensions before I was actually even using macros. And finally, this is just a update video. I will be coming out with a full timeline video of everything so that the timeline of things actually makes more sense to people, because I have been hearing a lot of confusion as to the timeline of things and when they occurred, which also does include the why I have a 2-month suspension. It isn't for my world record run. It was triggered because of an Octavia run that I failed at 17 hours, but just I'm going to put that out of the way there, and that led to the 20 others. That's one of the biggest ones I wanted to get out the way. A lot of people like to say that macros aren't allowed in Warframe. Here is proof from a DE staff member that they are allowed in Warframe. So now that we got that out of the way and got that all cleared up, let's go ahead and move on. I have this little interesting response that I received from Rebecca in regards to me asking if I can do a world record run with a hand cam.
Since the community lead is here,
Hey.
could you answer this question? Oh, that seems like a policy question.
Oh,
Not going to
okay.
take that one. That's not
Very well.
between us.
Now, I don't know exactly what that means, that this is a policy thing and that's not between us. If it's not between us, why, when you were community lead, did you block me 4 years ago instead of directing me to who I should be talking to? But the same person that was a CC in the ticket in closing was thanking me for playing the game, which was for my 95.5-hour world record run that I did, and that resulted in a 2-week suspension, was put a CC onto the new tickets. And then within 3 or 4 days of that, they actually ended up taking themselves off of the tickets, and they marked it as closed with no responses regarding to the most recent questions that I had asked, which we will get into as parts of the video pertain to it. Now, I know people in the comments will say it's within their TOS to not have to tell you. My response to that is the same response I get a lot when just in general talking about my endurance runs. And that is, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. To start off with, looking at these sections from Gamble's ticket, AFK is generally understood to be a situation involving the use of macro software. Although we would rather have our players experiencing the game as is, we do understand that some players want to use their gaming hardware or software to auto-task. What we do not tolerate from any of our players is complete automation, such as auto-aiming, targeting, leaving your Warframe killing for kills, or any action that could remove the human element from the game. You can use macros at your own risk, but depending on how you're using them, the macro could potentially get you banned, so be careful. Now, as for my tickets, we won't be able to disclose the specific program used to detect the data that shows that you have been idling in missions for excessive periods of time, which suggests AFK farming is occurring, and you will be considered away from keyboard by our system if no account activity has been detected, or if you are dead for more than 2 minutes and can be cleared by becoming active again. From what those statements say, I can get this meaning that via remote view and triggering the AFK warnings, because I live very close to the time at which you can get marked AFK, as it's not actions that clear the AFK, it's actually movement. That's it. It doesn't matter if you cast abilities, if you shoot, it matters what your coordinates are on the map. I'm just going to say that. Now, this is why my Octavia run was the trigger to end all triggers. If you really think about it, she breaks TOS. literally. Which is why I had suspensions with her going back to when I didn't even use macros, because she was my endurance frame. She was the frame that I got the very first suspension on. Now you may ask, how does she actually break TOS? Well, really think about what was said there. And what does Octavia do? What was stated, leaving your Warframe farming for kills or any action that could remove the human element from the game. Now let's really think about what Octavia does at her core. She allows you to place down abilities and walk away until you have to recast and loot. So if you're somebody who doesn't fully understand the game and what frames are capable of and what is just capable of in this game, any play that looks like this looks like what we stated up above. Or are you really going to tell me that a crouch macro is the problem in a game where we can clearly see macros are allowed?
And finally, I wanted to leave this example for last and kind of separate it on its own because it's my favorite. It's hands down my favorite. Please understand that we at the Warframe community take this matter seriously, and this system is required to prevent abuse of in-game mechanics and ensure every player in a mission contributes their fair share to its outcome. I'm doing solo missions. What do you mean to ensure every player in a mission contributes to their fair share of its outcome? So are you saying me moving my character is what contributes to its fair share, not me using abilities, shooting, any of that, right? The only thing that ensures a fair share for every player is me moving, because the AFK system is only triggered off movement, not actions. We have weapons with unlimited ammo and weapons that recharge their own ammo in the game. We have frames that their specific job works best to just sit there and cast one ability, or to just sit there in general and keep an ability up. Now, even though we have shown that macros are allowed in the game and they aren't the issue here, I'll still go ahead and explain what my macros do because I have gotten the question a lot. But I will not explain to you how I set them up because that does hit into an area where I could get my account banned for. So we're going to go ahead and avoid that because I'm already dealing with enough. You know what I mean? Anyways, so essentially what my macros are is they're at most 2 action macros like we would use back in the spin to, or other people would use back in the spin to win days. I was stubborn back in those days. Oh boy, was I. But they used to cover PC back in the day. No one got suspensions for those. And simply how I use them is for shooting a semi-automatic weapon. And when I have to spam an ability, like say in my vault run that I did for my 12-hour minimalistic build where I used energized mutations, everything else you see in my gameplay is actually me playing. I still have to loot, I still have to use other abilities, I still have to Tenno, do all those abilities in Tenno, including Void Sling. I don't use a Void Sling macro. I don't find I use it enough to warrant using a macro for it. I have to use it for switching weapons, throwing out my Zenny Star, or meleeing things. All the movement you see in the game, how I deal with acolytes, which they're not paper after around level 6k, but they do become harder to kill than regular level cap mobs by about level 1300. By about, I'd say 11k is actually at the point where I felt like I was at old school level cap. And yes, acolytes do scale, as far as we know, infinitely. The highest I fought was 12,380. But I use them for things that hurt my hand the most, or hands the most, and then that's it. That's all I use them for. So now that we got that cleared up, y'all can stop asking that question there. I've thought I explained it in the other video, but I figured we're going to make sure y'all understand it this time. Now, DE would have known that if they just talked to me on my world record run, which resulted in the 2-week suspension, as I was very understanding at that time. If you look back in the VODs and everything, I've frequently talk about the fact that I did a 35-hour run a month before that with the exact same strat, outside of the fact that I changed out a reload mod. It was even down to the same mission, an Annie Neo Fisher on Steel Path. Exactly the same. And that run didn't trigger anything whatsoever. Now, the difference besides the reload mod is I didn't stream it. It obviously didn't go viral. I uploaded a clip of it onto my alt channel, onto the Baker Science, in which it only got like 2,000 or so views. So I honestly, I had thought the system was fixed, because I was also told by a lot of old OGs back in the day that had protested for me way back in the day. Because yes, the protest that's happening right now is this isn't the first time
time it's happened. But that's why in the ticket I also go over my experience, and all that, because I really wanted to make DE understand that I have been here. That's why I made that video explaining my history. I don't understand like what the issue is at the end of the day, because I try giving them proof, as you can see here by Gamble's ticket. It says to bring all the proof, but at some point you're just going to have to accept that this is the way things are. I don't even have a remote idea on why things are the way they are. At least not without having to piece together everything and like solve it like a detective. Because y'all can't just speak to me. You were willing to speak to somebody else about me, but you weren't willing to speak to me about me. And it's not like doing what I do is easy at the end of the day. This is why in the ticket I go over my experience. If you wish to read, feel free to pause and go ahead and do so, but I've gone over it in many other videos and streams. Otherwise, for time's sake, we'll just go ahead and move on. But is it my fault that I'm capable of just sitting in place and looting only when required during a survival? When the devs brought all the buffs to us players and the nerfs to the enemies that allowed for us to make this actually happen, to the point of not needing a loot frame to never use O2 capsules if you line up everything perfect? Because for my world record run, I spent 8 hours restarting the mission until I found the perfect room for the run. On average, I'll spend about 10% of whatever my actual run is going to be in total. And that's looking for things like the perfect room to sit in, and then the perfect connecting rooms, and where the mobs spawn in those rooms. Because it's not even just about the perfect room, it's about having the perfect spot of the entrances of those rooms and where those mobs are going to be spawning. Otherwise, it can screw up your entire KPH to the point to where you have to use them. So I don't know why this is an issue when I have a history of doing this. Members of the endurance community even got suspensions, like I said earlier, just to protest on more than one occasion. And if macros are really such a big problem, I actually have a legitimate medical reason on why I use them, and I'm willing to show proof, which I did in the tickets even, on the one where they closed, and then they ended up suspending my second account, which I don't understand why it took you so long to do it. If you actually researched my account, because you would respond to my tickets that I would link videos from on that account, and you would respond while I was streaming on that account that you just got done suspending. So I put into question on how much research you actually do as a company at the end of the day, because you would have seen that account. I've been playing that account since December with my 2-week suspension, where once again you thanked me for playing the game, and you still haven't told me what the difference is. But if it's truly all just a problem of, let's say, macros, for whatever reason it may be, I'll go ahead and prove myself to you. I'll prove myself to the community that wants to sit there and put slander upon my name, thinking that a 2-action macro makes that big of a difference. And how I will do that is I will run a hand cam and no macro world record run to beat my actual current world record. And I'll show y'all I don't need these macros. And when I flag the system again, maybe we can actually talk about things, DE. Because I don't need these to be good at the game. I need them to not be in as much chronic pain as I'm already in. But if you so need the proof, because it is for my living, I'm disabled trying to replace disability. So for me, this isn't just a video game. This is a means of replacing being dehumanized and having to bite my tongue. Because at least when y'all dehumanize me, I don't have to bite my tongue. But I'll do it for my right to have a career in this space. And yes, it is my therapy too, but at the end of the day, that's right out the window. I don't even care about that right now. I care about the fact that I want to replace my living. I want to be independent from the nonsense of being on disability. I want to stop being a leech on society and provide things to people. Services. And if it's what I can do is build videos and talk about video games and then also make workout content on the side, I'm happy at least I can provide something to the world and not just sit there and do nothing. So please, DE, give me that opportunity. Because it doesn't even look like I'm going to get to the point of having to make a new account for every frame in the game, because once you permaban me, it looks like you'll just go out of your way once enough people report me or something of the sort to ban my account before I could even get a chance to do anything.
And I do understand Warframe as a game won't be around forever, but at least let me make the progress I can with it while it is still around, and progress my channel, and also progress myself as a person, because as I did mention, it is therapy. And it would be nice to continue further progressing both ends of my life, and be further ahead than I would be then if I was to stop it right now. Because the lessons that I learned in these things do transfer into other things, so I would like to actually keep obtaining the lessons that I have learned. And what you can see here, as it's clear to me, the only real problem is that I like to camp and not put in more effort into something than actually what is needed. And that's because I have a good understanding of the game. But you can make your own discernment and let me know in the comments down below. We'll have a conversation about it. I do hope you all take care. Stay safe, stay humble, be open, and as always, never stop searching. Peace, everybody.